Welcome to the Dozen Trivia Tournament 2 Selection Special presented by High Noon Hard Seltzer. I am your commissioner and host, Jeff D. Lowe, and today we're going to do two things. Revealing the bracket for the Dozen Trivia Tournament 2, as well as handing out awards. The All-Dozen Team, Most Improved Player, the Rookie of the Year, and the MVP of the season. But first, let's talk about what you can expect with the Dozen Trivia Tournament 2 airing in a few weeks. The rankings for the Dozen Trivia Tournament 2 and how we were able to seed the teams were decided by two things. A mix, 50% computer rankings, all your stacks, your wins, your points scored, and then 50% a fan vote. The fan vote was massive this year in determining seeds, and you will see that in a few moments when we reveal the bracket. The tournament will be filmed May 16th through 18th here in studio in New York. We expect most competitors to be in person, and then the week after that, we will air matches double headers on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 2 consecutive weeks going into June when we crown our second ever champion of the Dozen Trivia competition. 15 teams make the field. There could be a possible play-in game, which you will see here in a moment. If any team is ranked within 0.5 average rank of the last team to get in, that triggers a play-in game. The play-in game would be a best-of-7 only bonus round matchup that would air on May the 12th, the week before the tournament. In terms of niche categories, teams must select 3 niche categories, and they can repeat one of them later on in the tournament. It's a small advantage for our regular season champion, Frank and the Frankettes, who get a bye to the second round. They only have to pick 2 niche categories. All right, let's get right into revealing the bracket. Let's start with those Frank and the Frankettes, the regular season champions. They're the #1 overall seed in the Pineapple region. Frank and the Frankettes lurked in the shadows all season long and won the crown in their only shot at it. As they won the Chicago Live Event Tournament, they also won the Los Angeles Live Event Tournament as well, beating the Yak in the finals of both of those championship matches. Their only loss of the season actually came in another tournament, the Arizona Tournament. They lost that remotely against Team ZD, Dave Portnoy, Eddie, and Clem, back in January. Frankettes 10-1-0 on the season. They won their last 5 matches of the season, top ranked across the board, #1 computer ranking, #1 fan ranking. They also have a top 5 scorer in Nick Terraney as well, and an MVP candidate. They're also the highest scoring team in the league with 13.27 points per match. They lost, though, in this spot last year. They had a first-round bye, but were upset in a shocking loss to 9-seed Gen XYZ as they bowed out in tough fashion. Frank actually had a tough start to the season, but turned it on as of late, especially with the live events, and this team is a well-oiled machine going into the big dance as they look for redemption after losing last year, and now this year, nearly perfect, and back-to-back champions of live events and the regular season crown holding champions. Who will the #1 overall seed Frank and the Frankettes take on in the second round after their bye? It's the winner of the 8-9 matchup. And the 8th seed is the Big Screamin' Honkers. The defending champions, Coley Mick, Robbie Fox, and Ben Mintz, have stumbled into this tournament. They've lost 4 consecutive matches ever since losing the crown to Chicago in December. They've not won a match in 2022. A fan ranking of 6 saves them a little bit, and they have played a pretty tough schedule. 3rd hardest schedule in the league. They're actually solid against good teams. Against quad 1 teams, they're 3-2-1, and then they're 1-3-0 against everyone else. They're also the worst niche category team in the field. They've only hit 3 of their niches, but we know if you watch closely, Coley Mick has tinkered with it quite a bit, so you have to expect them to hone it in for the tournament. The 9 seed, Out of Office, a juggernaut matchup here in the first round. One of the new teams in the Dozen this year, Chris Castellani, Riggs, who traded himself to this team, and Coach Doug's. They're ranked by computers 3rd overall, but a fan ranking of 16 shoots them all the way down to the 9 seed. They have a tough schedule as well, played the 5th hardest schedule, but Chris Castellani has been a sensation, the 2nd highest scorer in the league. He's an MVP candidate and a Rookie of the Year candidate as well, but they're only 1-1-1 since adding Riggs in that mid-season trade. The Pineapple region is the 1 seed Frankettes, and they will take take on the winner of the 8-9 matchup between the Honkers and Out of Office. Let's move on down to the next region, the Kiwi Region, presented by High Noon, where the 4 and 5 seeds sit. The number 4 overall seed in the tournament is the former crown-holding Team Chicago, Carl, Chief, and White Sox Dave. Everyone laughed at them when they went for the crown back in December. They won it, and then they held it all the way up through April until they lost it in a really tough live event match in their hometown of Chicago against Big Cat and the Yak. They held that crown from December through April. They're 7-4-0 on the season. They went on a 6-match winning streak, all against top 10 teams. They're 6-3-0 against teams in quads 1 and 2. They have the 4th hardest schedule, but they're also a defensive team. They're the only team that averages less than 10 points per match that still has a winning record. It's an unbelievable sensation. Chicago will be taking on the 13 seed. Into the field is Spittin' Chicklets, one of the last 4 teams in. Ryan Whitney, Biz, and RA played 2 matches on the season. They're 1-1-0. They beat Dave Portnoy and ZD earlier in the season and then played in the last match of the regular season, almost coming back late against the Experts. Actually, a below niche category was the difference in that match. These 2 teams, which you have to expect will be chirping a lot, will play each other for the first time ever here in the tournament. The 5 seed in the Kiwi region is the Experts, the original dozen team. Brandon, PFT, and Fran went 15-6-0 on the season. A very high computer ranking, but they fall down to the 5 seed. They had a fan ranking of 7 in the final fan vote. They have the 2nd easiest schedule in the league at 18, but they've been solid against quad 1 and 2 teams as well. They're 6-5-0 against them, but it's been the bad teams they've beat up on. 9-1-0 against the bad teams, and they did win that Arizona mid-season tournament when they took down the Yak and ZD. They're a fundamentally sound team. They bowed out in the 2nd round last year, but as of late, worth noting, Fran has been on fire, scoring 8 points in her last match against Spittin' Chicklets. So right now, the Experts are looking pretty solid. They'll be taking on a Final Four team from last year, the Misfits. Hank, Kelly Keegs, and a to-be-determined 3rd member. We do not know yet who will be on the Misfits, as Dante will not be in the tournament. RDT seems to be on the fence as well, but the Misfits made the Final Four last year. Riggs traded himself off this team mid-season, and since then, when they got Kelly Keegs, they're 2-1-0. So they roll into the tournament as the 12 seed, but they have been pretty solid in the second half of the season. So the Kiwi region, the 4 seed Chicago taking on 13 seed Spittin' Chicklets, and the 5-12 matchup, it's the Experts against the Misfits. Next up, the Passion Fruit region, where we find our 3 seed and our 6 seed in this tournament. The number 3 overall team in the tournament is the Yak. Big Cat, Roan, and Shay have been great as of late. However, their inability to get over the hump against the Frankettes has really hurt them. They lost to them in the championship matches in both Los Angeles and Chicago. They're 5-4-1 on the season. They play the 2nd hardest schedule in the league. They scored 12 plus points in their last 3 matches. Actually, in Chicago, they set a record. The first team to ever score 14 points and lose. The first team to ever hit 11 of their own 12 questions and lose. The combined record of the teams they've lost to, by the way, 46-17-1. The Yak only plays good teams, and they've been really fucking good. But can they get over the hump in this tournament? They can beat everybody, but as of right now, just not the Frankettes. They are on opposite sides of the bracket, though. They'll be taking on the 14 seed, a new team, the Booze Ponies. Dana Beers, Chef Donnie, and Will Compton. They came in late into the season. They beat Foreplay in a great overtime match. And then Dana B almost had an insane comeback alone against the Experts. Their fan vote is massive, and they get into the field after only playing 2 matches. They're one of the new team sensations that fans love. How will Dana B fare against Big Cat? We'll see how many high noons he has to chug. The 6th seed in the bracket here in the Passion Fruit region is another new team. It is your mom. KFC, Rudy, and Jack McCarthy shoot up the rankings due to a big final fan vote, ranked 4th by the fans. They have beat up on teams in quads 2 through 4, 5-0 against them, but against quad 1 teams, they're 0-5. Rudy, an MVP candidate and Rookie of the Year candidate, is a top 10 scorer in the league. They're also one of the best bonus round teams as well. They've won 7 out of their 10 bonus rounds. They were sort of laughed at in the beginning of the season. They won a huge first match against the defending champion Big Screamin' Honkers, and they never looked back, jumping all the way up to a 6 seed, beating out a couple teams that thought they might be here. And they'll be taking on the 11 seed, This is a first ever matchup between KFC and Dave Portnoy. ZD, the 11 seed. Dave, Eddie, and Clem, they're 2-4-0 on the season when Dave played. They had a horrible match against the Frankettes in Chicago, but again, Dave did not play. They play the hardest schedule in the league, only one match against a team outside the top 10. It was Spittin' Chicklets. And in 2022, they are 2-2-0 when Dave Portnoy plays for the team. They were a playing game 12 seed last year. This year, after 7 matches, they come in as an 11 seed. So the Passion Fruit region is the Yak against the Booze Ponies, the 3-14, and in the 6-11, it's your mom and ZD, KFC versus Dave Portnoy for the first time ever. And finally, the last region we have to reveal here, we will find out the teams that made it and the teams that didn't. It is the Lemon region presented by High Noon, a brand new High Noon flavor, delicious might I add. The 7th seed in the Lemon region goes to Smockin. That was one of the teams that thought they might be able to grab a top 6 seed. Mark Titus, Ken Jack, and Donnie, 5-2-0 on the season. They lost that controversial match against Chicago in which White Sox Dave had a cheating scandal. They went for the crown. They play a top 6 schedule as well. They have 2 top 15 scorers in Mark Titus and Ken Jack, and they've never scored below 10 points in any match all season. And despite that good record, though, it is worth noting, they're 0-5 on Phone-a-Friends. They've never had a successful Phone-a-Friend this season. If you recall, last year in the tournament as well, they beat Chicago and then lost in another controversial match. That was the original Bad Boys Yak match for Big Cat and Roan. Who will Smockin be playing? It's the 10 seed, Uptown Balls, possibly another underseeded team. Uptown Balls thought they might even be able to grab a 6 seed, but they dropped down to the 10, 4-3-2 on the season. They are 1-2-2 in matches decided by 2 points or less, and they've actually lost 3 matches scoring 10 plus. They score so many points. They're the 3rd highest scoring team in the league with 11.67 points per match. Tommy Smoke's also a top 10 scorer in the league and a most improved candidate. This team is complete chaos. They argue, but they're always in a match, whether they're against a good team or a bad team. Can Uptown Balls have a Cinderella run? The 2 seed in the Lemon region is Team Minahan. Once again, for the 2nd consecutive season, Kirk Minahan and Team Minahan will be the 2 seed. Last year, they lost their first matchup, a huge upset against the Misfits, and obviously the Misfits went on to go to the Final Four. This year, it's Kirk, Pat, and Rico Bosco. Kirk, the top scorer in the league, and one of their 4 losses actually came when Kirk was not playing. Kirk is the leading scorer, but on the other side, Pat has the lowest points per match total in the league, so complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and they have been wildly efficient on double categories, hitting 12 of 14. Who will Team Minahan be playing? It will be the 15 seed play-in game, and Gen XYZ gets into that play-in game. A Final Four team from last season. They've had a brutal season 2, going 2-7-0. They could never quite find their footing, but a late season win against the Big Screamin' Honkers is likely what pushed them into the field, but they're only 0.5 ahead of the team behind them, which means it triggers a play-in game. Large, Jake Marsh, and Vibs from the Final Four last year to the play-in game this year, and they will be taking on, in an all bonus round matchup, the fellas. That is right, Nate, Jack Mack, and Big Ev make the tournament, but in the play-in game. So Gen XYZ and the fellas will play an all bonus rounds best of 7 match on Thursday, May 12th to determine who gets that 15 seed and plays Team Minahan in the first round of the tournament. The fellas actually beat Gen XYZ earlier in the season, but they just squeak in with a chance to make the final field of 15 for the Dozen Trivia Tournament 2 presented by High Noon. So the Lemon region, the 7 seed Smockin taking on 10 seed Uptown Balls, and then 2 seed Team Minahan taking on the winner of Gen XYZ and the fellas, the 15 seed playing game that we played a few days before the whole tournament begins. All right, so let's look again at those last 4 teams that snuck into the tournament. Spittin' Chicklets gets in as the 13 seed, one of the last 4 teams in. They played their required 2nd match against the Experts. They almost went 2-0-0. It's actually pretty curious where they might have landed had they won against the Experts. Same with the Booze Ponies, the 14 seed. A new team getting in this season, Dana Shefdani and Will Compton. They were pretty safe, especially after winning that first match against Foreplay. It was clear that their fan vote would be large. But the last 2 teams in, the 2 15 seeds that will play each other for a shot at the 2 seed Team Minahan, Gen XYZ 2-7-0, and the fellas 3-4-0. They have to play an incredibly unique and different version of the Dozen only bonus rounds. It'll be a little bit of sports, a little bit of pop culture, maybe some geography mixed in there. How about the first 4 teams out? The teams that just didn't have enough to get into the tournament this year. 4Play misses the tournament by a hair. All they had to do was have an average rank of 15.5 and they would have triggered another play-in game, but they just missed out on getting into the big dance. Riggs, Trent, and Frankie, they had a brutal OT loss to the Booze Ponies, and now in hindsight, had they won that, they would have probably gotten in. They just could not get that last third match scheduled against the Fellas, and they are the first team out of this field. The Troops, on the other hand, won 3-0. They were pretty safely out after their last loss to the Misfits. Chaps, Kate, and Billy Football had a really tough loss earlier in the season to the Experts. It was a name mispronunciation that sunk them. In the end, that seems to be the difference. And also, worth mentioning, Nightmare 05-0, the villains from last season, went winless on the season. They didn't finish dead last, though, so a small hat tip to Nightmare. They will not be in the tournament this year, as well as the Undesirables, Banks, Hubs, and TJ. They round out the first 4 teams out of the tournament. And let's look, before we get to the awards at the end here, the top 4 seeds, just a reminder. The Frankettes, the number 1 overall seed, they locked it up in Chicago. Team Minahan just squeaks ahead of the Yak for the 2 seed, the Yak at the 3, and then Chicago, the longtime crown holders, rounded out with the 4 seed. Here's one more look at the bracket. In the Pineapple region, the 1 seed, Frank and the Frankettes, the 8 seed, the Honkers, the 9 seed, Out of Office. In the Kiwi region, the 5 seed, the Experts, against 12 seed Misfits, 4 seed Chicago, 13 seed Spittin' Chicklets. Passion Fruit region, 6 seed Your Mom against 11 seed ZD, 3 seed the Yak against 14 seed Booze Ponies, and then in the Lemon region, 7 seed Smockin', 10 seed Uptown Balls, and then 2 seed Minahan will take on the play-in game winner, the 15 seed Gen XYZ and the Fellas. All right, let's get to the awards for the season, starting with the all-dozen team, the 5 top players on the season. Kirk Minahan, obviously an MVP candidate. Rudy as well. Chris Castellani, Large, and Nick, the top 5, the all-dozen team for Season 2. Let's look at the candidates for Most Improved Player of the Year. First up, Tommy Smokes averaged 3 points last year, averaged 4.56 points this year. Big season for Uptown Balls. Carl, Team Chicago, they held the crown. He was a big reason why. Averaged just over 3 points last year, averaged over 4 points this year. Clem actually won All-Star Game MVP this year. He was an All-Star, 2.62 points per match last season. He averaged 4 this season. And then Jack McCarthy averaged 0 points per match last season. And now this year, for Your Mom, a new team, he was a big reason why. A 100% increase, an infinity percent increase, 3.3 points per match average for Jack McCarthy. So the candidates, Tommy Smokes, Carl, Clem, and Jack McCarthy. The Most Improved Player of the Year, fan vote went to Tommy Smokes, Most Improved Player of the Year. Tommy won the Most Improved of Season 2. All right, let's get to Rookie of the Year for Season 2. There were only 2 candidates. Both are up for MVP as well. Let's start with Rudy. Your Mom was a sensation for much of the year. 5 wins out of 10 matches. Rudy is tied for the league lead in correct niche category answers with Brandon Walker and has the solo lead as well for niche rounds. On the other hand, Chris Castellani, second in the league in scoring, 6.13 points per game. He was an all-star. Rudy was not. Rudy very hurt by that. Campaigned much harder for Rookie of the Year. Chris is also tied for 3rd in the league in doubled questions. These 2, the clear Rookie of the Year candidates, and the winner from fan vote for Rookie of the Year goes to Rudy from Your Mom, Rookie of the Year for Season 2. A huge debut in the dozen, was laughed at, joked about by many, but he winds up being the Rookie of the Year. And lastly, MVP of Season 2. We already mentioned Rudy and Chris Castellani, the 2 Rookie of the Year candidates. They were up for the award as well. The other 2 candidates are, from Frank and the Frankettes, Nick Terraney, who had a very strong end of the season. Some think he probably should have won the MVP in the Chicago tournament. Nick, again, very high percentage of his team scoring. 65% of the Frankettes points come from Nick, and the other candidate is Kirk Minahan. He leads the league in scoring, 6.15 points per match. Chris, a season high in terms of single game performance. He had 12 points in match 193. And Rudy's the only player to not have scored less than 4 points in any of his matches. Insanely consistent. The winner of the MVP of Season 2 goes to Kirk Minahan. Makes complete sense. Carried a team that has the lowest ranked scoring player in the league, but Kirk winds up with the top spot for Season 2. Team Minahan, the 2 seed as we head into the tournament. All right, that is it. We have all of our regular season awards and our bracket for the Dozen Trivia Tournament 2, presented by High Noon Hard Seltzer. The play-in game between Gen, XYZ, and the Fellas will air on May 12th. The Dozen Trivia Tournament 2 will be filmed May 16th through 18th, and then you will see double header, 2 matches a night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting for 2 straight weeks on May 23rd. Thank you for watching. Thank you to High Noon Hard Seltzer. I'm your commissioner and host, Jeff D. Lowe. We'll see you again soon.